For 30 years, Johnny Carson welcomed America's biggest stars into our living rooms with that easy smile and coffee casual charm. But when the cameras cut and the applause faded, the grin sometimes vanished. Behind the desk, Carson kept a secret mental blacklist, 9 golden age icons he believed weren't just difficult, but downright evil. And he never forgot a name. Johnny Carson was the ultimate professional on camera, revealed a former Tonight Show producer who worked with Carson for over a decade. Smooth, charming, unshakable. But the minute we cut to commercial, he would sometimes turn to Ed and whisper, "That person should never be near a camera or a child." Not exactly the kind of Yelp review you want from America's favorite host. In his final years, Carson became increasingly candid about the celebrities he'd secretly despised throughout his career. The stories he told close friends paint a disturbing picture of beloved icons who were monsters behind their carefully crafted public images. Most shocking were Carson's revelations about one legendary actress who appeared sweet and vulnerable on his couch, but backstage had verbally assaulted a young production assistant so viciously that security had to intervene. Yes, security, over words. And the beloved male star who Carson caught doing something so disturbing in his dressing room that the host nearly called the police. These weren't just difficult personalities or demanding stars. According to Carson, these were genuinely dark people hiding behind fame and talent predators, abusers, and manipulators who the industry protected for decades. So how did it all start? Who earned the #1 spot on Carson's private blacklist? But first, we need to understand why the first name on Carson's list earned his most intense dislike and the private backstage confrontation no one has ever revealed until now. Jerry Lewis, the comedian Carson called truly hateful. Jerry Lewis was one of America's most successful entertainers, a groundbreaking comedian, actor, director, and humanitarian, known for his annual telethons benefiting muscular dystrophy research. His manic energy and physical comedy had made him a global star. On camera, he was chaos with a heart of gold. Off camera, according to numerous Tonight Show staff accounts, Lewis was also one of the most difficult, demeaning celebrities in Hollywood, a reputation that earned him a special place on Carson's personal blacklist. He's what happens when ego outruns talent. Carson reportedly told a colleague after a particularly troublesome Lewis appearance in the mid-1970s. And unlike some difficult guests who saved their worst behavior for underlings, Lewis reportedly made no secret of his disdain for Carson himself. During one infamous appearance, Lewis repeatedly talked over Carson, hijacked questions intended for other guests, and at one point actually reached over and adjusted Carson's tie without permission, a move that visibly annoyed the normally unflappable host. Johnny hated people touching him without permission. It was a well-known rule. A former producer explained, "You don't touch Johnny unless he initiates it." Lewis knew this and did it anyway as a power move. Lewis's treatment of crew members was allegedly even worse. He refused to learn staffers' names, calling them, "Hey, you," or "camera guy," or "makeup girl," regardless of experience. In one disturbing incident, a camera operator coughed quietly during rehearsal. Lewis exploded, screaming that the cameraman was a professional who breathes like an amateur and demanding he be removed. Not talking, breathing. The poor guy had allergies. What disgusted Carson most was the contrast. A public champion for children who privately treated adults like they were disposable. In a town full of phonies, he stands out as truly hateful. Carson later said, "Do you think he truly deserved to stand at the very top of that blacklist? Comment yes or no below." Joan Crawford, the Hollywood queen with ice in her veins. When she appeared on The Tonight Show in 1970, America saw elegance, perfected flawless posture, immaculate styling, and that legendary old Hollywood charm. She looked like royalty under the lights. But backstage, according to multiple staff members, it was a different movie entirely. She was one of the coldest people I've ever interviewed. Carson later said, like talking to a beautiful statue with nothing inside. The drama began before she even stepped into the studio. Crawford sent a 4-page memo detailing her lighting, chair angle, desk height, and even the exact studio temperature, 67 degrees. Not 66, not 68. She arrived 3 hours early with her own makeup team. Yet what truly shocked the crew wasn't the diva-level demands, it was how she treated people. Polite and deferential to Johnny, brutal to everyone else. When a 20-year-old production assistant mistakenly entered her dressing room with requested water, Crawford allegedly unleashed a vicious verbal attack, so harsh, the hallway went silent. The young woman left in tears. Crawford demanded she be fired. Then the cameras rolled, and suddenly she was sweetness and sparkle. The smile switched on like a light bulb. During commercials, silence. Stone-faced. Mechanical. Like a machine pretending to be a woman. One producer said. After the show, Carson reportedly told Ed McMahon, "I've interviewed corpses with more personality." Years later, when Mommy Dearest revealed abuse allegations, Carson wasn't surprised. "I saw who she really was," he said. And yet, even Crawford's icy control was nothing compared to the raw intimidation of the next name on Carson's list. Orson Welles, the genius who thought rules were. During the Carson era, Orson Welles appeared on The Tonight Show multiple times, delivering booming monologues, larger-than-life presence, and legendary Hollywood stories. Viewers saw a charming, brilliant master storyteller, Carson and his staff. They saw a man whose ego had expanded to cinematic proportions, so large he believed normal television rules simply didn't apply to him. Never again. Carson reportedly muttered after one, especially exhausting appearance. That guy thinks he's still running Rome. The trouble usually started before Welles even arrived. According to show writers, he routinely dismissed every prepared question. He told us our questions were pedestrian and obvious. One writer recalled, he literally crossed them out and handed back a blank page. That left Carson interviewing one of cinema's greatest figures with zero roadmap, not ideal when your guest enjoys wandering through 20-minute stories with no exit sign. In the mid-1970s, Welles was booked for 7 minutes. He stayed for nearly 25. Carson gave every subtle wrap-up cue in the playbook. Welles saw them and kept talking. 2 other guests were bumped entirely. Backstage, he refused to address assistants directly. "Tell the girl, I need water. Ask the boy to fix the light." As if he were directing a Roman epic instead of a talk show. At one point, he even tried to instruct the camera operators from the couch. Genius doesn't excuse everything. Carson later said, "Being brilliant doesn't give you permission to hijack someone else's show." Publicly respectful, privately irritated. Carson began to see Welles as proof that talent, unchecked by humility, can become its own worst performance. And the next guest, even harder to contain. Mickey Rooney, the aging child star with wandering hands. Hollywood royalty. The #1 box office star from 1939 to 1941. A living bridge to the golden age. On paper, his Tonight Show appearances should have been pure nostalgia, standing ovations, warm laughs, a victory lap. Instead, according to multiple staff accounts, Rooney's visits became infamous for inappropriate behavior, chaotic energy, and occasional intoxication. He thinks being short gives him license to be a pervert. Carson reportedly told his producer after one particularly uncomfortable taping in the mid-1970s, by his mid-50s, Rooney had built a troubling reputation among female staff. Unwanted touching, suggestive comments, boundaries treated like optional stage props. Production assistants would reportedly request reassignment when they heard he was booked. One former assistant recalled him grabbing hands, holding wrists a second too long, asking if they were married and not quite letting go. Then there was the drinking. Employees claimed he appeared visibly intoxicated on multiple occasions, slurred words, wandering stories, punchlines that never landed. During a 1977 segment, an anecdote about Judy Garland turned so inappropriate Carson had to cut him off mid-story. Is he drunk? Carson reportedly asked during break. Or is this just who he is now? Carson wasn't prudish, but he had lines. After Rooney made repeated comments about a young actress guest, Carson personally apologized to her backstage. That's not how professionals act on my show. Rooney's bookings quietly became less frequent. My take, fame doesn't freeze time, and it definitely doesn't excuse behavior. If you enjoy deep dives like this, hit subscribe and comment number 1 below to show your support. Zsa Zsa Gabor, the diva who drove Carson to despair. With the glamorous gowns, the unmistakable accent, and that playful wink to the camera, Zsa Zsa Gabor became a Tonight Show staple, appearing dozens of times during Carson's reign. To viewers, she was delightful chaos, flirting, joking about her Hungarian roots and her many marriages like it was all part of the act. Backstage, according to staff, it was a full-scale production before the production. I'd rather interview a cat. Carson reportedly joked after one exhausting taping. At least the cat wouldn't need 3 assistants and special lighting. Her dressing room had to be exactly 74 degrees. Fresh flowers, orchids only. Never carnations. A bottle of Perrier with exactly 3 ice cubes. Her own lighting technician, and absolutely no female guests under 40 on the same episode. Miss one detail. She might refuse to leave her dressing room. In one infamous moment, she discovered her preferred foundation wasn't available and demanded someone drive to Beverly Hills immediately. Carson had to personally call and charm her out. Zsa, honey, you look beautiful already. Let's save the cosmetics emergency for another day. She once arrived 40 minutes late, then complained about her introduction. Carson quipped, they should rename the show after her and let him be the sidekick. Despite these frustrations, Gabor continued to appear on the show throughout Carson's tenure, a testament to her undeniable entertainment value when the cameras were actually rolling. While Gabor's diva demands created logistical headaches, Carson's next challenging guest brought a different kind of discomfort. Unpredictable behavior that could quickly turn a lighthearted interview into an uncomfortable confrontation. Cow, the obnoxious mama. Shelley Winters, the unpredictable powder keg, 2-time Oscar winner, decades in Hollywood. Glamorous star turned fearless character actress. On paper, Shelley Winters should have been the perfect Tonight Show guest seasoned. Witty, overflowing with stories. In reality, according to staff, she wasn't a guest. She was a live wire. Shell doesn't talk. She detonates. Carson reportedly said after one explosive night. And detonate she did. A simple question about her latest film could suddenly morph into a 5-minute, no-breath monologue about government corruption. Carson, the undisputed king of smooth transitions, would sit there like a man trying to politely redirect a hurricane. Johnny could steer any conversation. One director recalled, but with Shelley, it was like trying to steer a tornado. And it wasn't just words. Winters had a reputation for volatility, famously throwing a glass of whiskey at Oliver Reed on a British talk show after sexist remarks. When she was booked, staff quietly removed anything throwable from the set, just in case. But here's the twist, her fire came from passion, not ego. She believed every word she said. After one intense anti-Vietnam War segment, Carson reportedly admitted, I may not want a vacation with her, but at least she means it. So what do you think about her political views, bold and brave or too explosive for late-night TV? Bette Davis, Hollywood's queen of verbal violence. When Bette Davis appeared on The Tonight Show, America saw royalty, sharp wit, that unmistakable voice, elegance, wrapped in decades of cinematic glory. She told dazzling stories, commanded the couch, and reminded everyone why legends don't fade. But off camera, different story. She doesn't need a stage. She needs a courtroom. Carson allegedly joked to Ed McMahon, no one should be cross-examined by Bette Davis without a lawyer. According to staff, Davis didn't just share the spotlight, she fought for it. If another guest, especially a younger actress, started getting laughs, Bette would interrupt or physically turn her back. One coordinator said you could see her plotting her comeback mid-smile. Backstage, the mood didn't soften. She reportedly requested whiskey before appearances, classic old Hollywood, but sometimes the sharp tongue got sharper. Female staff recalled sexist and racist remarks that stunned even 1970s standards. When she berated a cue card holder for being too slow, Carson quietly stepped in Miss Davis. On this show, we speak to everyone with respect or not at all. She backed down, shocked but silent. Carson admired her talent. Many Oscar winners aren't lying. But after her last visit in the early 1980s, he reportedly sighed. Life is too short to be rebuked by Bette Davis's words. If you enjoyed this Hollywood classic, leave comment number 1. Want to change the subject? Leave comment number 3. We're always welcome. Marlon Brando, the rebel genius who hijacked Carson's couch. When Marlon Brando walked onto The Tonight Show in 1973, it wasn't just a booking, it was an event. A living legend, an acting revolutionary, a man who rarely did talk shows suddenly sitting under Carson's lights. The audience expected charm. What they got was a takeover. Brando didn't answer questions, he redirected them. Promoting a film, not interested. He wanted to dissect politics, media manipulation, and America's moral compass. At one point, he turned to Johnny and asked, "Dead serious, do you ever think television is making people less intelligent?" The crowd laughed. Carson laughed. But for once, the king of late night wasn't steering, he was riding shotgun. Backstage, it got even better. Brando reportedly rejected pre-approved questions, resisted studio makeup, and even requested a different chair because the original one made him look subordinate. Only Brando could treat a talk show like a philosophical standoff. He wasn't difficult, one staffer said. He was operating in his own orbit. Carson admired genius, but losing control of his own stage. That was the real drama. Elizabeth Taylor, the violet-eyed empress who treated The Tonight Show like her personal kingdom. When Elizabeth Taylor stepped onto Carson's stage, America didn't just see a movie star, they saw a living legend wrapped in diamonds, with those famous violet eyes and a presence that could outshine studio lights. She transformed a simple talk show booking into a cultural event. But behind the curtain, staffers say it felt less like a guest appearance and more like hosting visiting royalty. Taylor arrived with an entourage worthy of a diplomatic summit, and her dressing room reportedly underwent multiple adjustments to meet her standards. Lighting softened, furniture repositioned, camera angles negotiated like treaty terms. One producer joked, "She didn't enter a room, she annexed it." On camera, however, she was magnetic. She laughed easily, poked fun at her many marriages, and traded playful banter with Johnny that brought the audience to its feet. She understood charm as both instinct and strategy. Yet, the mood could shift in an instant. When Carson casually referenced a recent tabloid headline, Taylor's smile tightened just enough to cool the room. In a measured, velvet tone, she reminded him she didn't do gossip. And the subtext was clear: proceed carefully. Carson, master of recovery, pivoted smoothly to safer territory before the tension could ripple into viewers' living rooms. After one especially delicate taping, Carson reportedly quipped to Ed McMahon, "She's magnificent, but I need hazard pay." He admired her talent and respected her legacy, but he disliked feeling as though he was tiptoeing across his own stage. Elizabeth Taylor wasn't chaotic or openly hostile. She was controlled, powerful, and keenly aware of her myth. And sometimes, that quiet command was far more exhausting than any loud Hollywood tantrum. Thanks for watching our deep dive into Johnny Carson's most difficult guests, proof that even the king of late night had to wrestle a few divas before dessert. If this trip through television's golden age opened your eyes, hit like and subscribe for more untold Hollywood stories. And if these Tonight Show revelations shocked you, just wait. Our next expose uncovers a beloved 80s sitcom, where a cute child star caused chaos so intense, producers quietly installed panic buttons on set. Ring that bell, the next bombshell drops soon. Think you've seen Johnny Carson handle everything. For 30 years, he ruled late night calm, sharp, completely unshakable. But when the cameras were rolling, anything could explode. Wild guests, total chaos, even moments that left the king of cool visibly rattled. We're counting down the craziest unscripted moments in Carson history. Number 9 will shock you. So buckle up and stay with us. Because the higher we go, the more out of control it gets. The night a Capuchin monkey turned Johnny Carson's legendary hair into primetime jungle real estate. In 1979, what started as a routine animal segment on The Tonight Show turned into one of Johnny Carson's most unforgettable live television moments. It seemed like just another harmless visit from an animal expert. Animal handler Joanne Steele brought out a Capuchin monkey and calmly began explaining its behavior. Carson sat behind his desk looking perfectly composed, suit sharp, timing sharp, and most importantly, hair flawless. Johnny's hair was legendary. Not a single strand ever dared step out of place. Then, without warning, the monkey made its move. In a split second, it launched straight onto Carson's head, grabbing and climbing through his perfectly styled hair like it had just discovered a brand new jungle gym. The audience exploded with laughter as chaos unfolded in real time. But Carson didn't panic. He didn't shout or swat the animal away. Instead, he stayed perfectly still, wearing a look of calm disbelief, while the monkey completely dismantled his carefully crafted hairstyle. That icy composure turned an awkward disaster into instant comedy gold. When the monkey was finally removed, Carson slowly turned to the camera, his hair sticking up wildly in every direction. With flawless timing, he delivered the line that sealed the moment in television history. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is why I prefer cats. The audience roared, and once again Carson proved that nothing, not even a monkey on his head, could shake the king of late night. The night a simple Tomahawk demonstration turned into late night legend. In April 1965, Ed Ames' star of Daniel Boone stepped onto The Tonight Show to show America how to throw a tomahawk frontier style. It all felt safe enough. Ames explained the technique. Johnny Carson listened politely. A wooden cowboy target was rolled out. What could possibly go wrong? Ames hurled the tomahawk with perfect aim, and it landed dead center in the wooden cowboy's crotch. For one split second, silence. Then the audience detonated. But the real explosion was behind the desk. Johnny Carson, the smooth, unflappable king of cool, absolutely lost it. He doubled over. Tears streamed down his face. He couldn't speak. For nearly 3 full minutes, an eternity on live television, Carson was helpless with laughter. When he finally caught his breath, he delivered the perfectly timed punchline that sent the crowd into another wave of hysteria. It wasn't just funny. It was real. The mask dropped. America watched Johnny Carson laugh like the rest of us, uncontrollably, unapologetically, and it became one of the most iconic moments in television history. The night Robin Williams hijacked The Tonight Show, and Johnny Carson happily let him. Whenever Robin Williams walked onto that stage, structure went out the window. He wasn't a guest, he was a Category 5 hurricane in suspenders. Officially, he'd be there to promote a movie. Unofficially, he was there to detonate the format. Within seconds of sitting down in the early 1980s, Williams launched into machine gun impressions, jumped out of his chair, climbed around Carson's desk, and turned a simple interview into a one-man Broadway audition. Directed by chaos itself. In the control room, producers panicked. Where is he going? Do we cut to commercial? But Carson just waved them off. He knew better. Trying to control Robin was like trying to lasso lightning while it was laughing at you. And here's what made it magic. Johnny surrendered. The king of late night leaned back, tears in his eyes, letting Robin run wild. Instead of steering the ship, Carson became the delighted audience. Later, Johnny admitted, "I never know what's going to happen when Robin sits down." Coming from the most unshakable host in television history, that wasn't a complaint, it was the highest compliment. And that's what made it unforgettable, the king of control choosing to let go. So, what do you think about Johnny Carson's handling of that moment? Smart move or total surrender? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. The night Don Rickles committed the ultimate crime, he broke Johnny Carson's cigarette box. Now, this wasn't just any desk prop. Carson ran his set like a military operation. Every pencil had clearance. Every cue card had a home. And that wooden cigarette box, sacred, untouchable. Basically late-night royalty. In October 1973, Rickles guest hosted The Tonight Show and accidentally smashed the box. America laughed. Carson did not forget. The very next night, Johnny showed the damage on air like it was evidence in a courtroom. Retribution was promised. But no one expected what came next. Months later, during a commercial break, Carson casually asked, "Isn't Rickles taping CPO Sharky next door?" Minutes later, Johnny and a camera crew were sprinting across the NBC lot like it was a late-night raid. They burst onto Rickles' live taping mid-scene. Rickles, dressed in Navy uniform, froze in horror as Carson stormed in, demanding justice for the fallen cigarette box. "I don't care about your scene," Johnny fired. "You broke my cigarette box." The audience went wild. It wasn't anger, it was friendship in its purest, funniest form. Only someone Johnny truly adored could get ambushed like that on national television. And that's what made it legendary. And if you thought breaking Johnny's cigarette box was dangerous, wait until you hear what happened when he decided to break one of late night's unspoken rules. Dolly Parton and Johnny Carson created one of the most talked about moments in television history. When Dolly Parton appeared in 1977, she was already a sensation, incredible voice, sharp humor, and a stage presence that lit up the room. The interview began with playful banter, the kind Carson had mastered for decades. Easy laughs, clever back and forth, pure late-night magic. Then Johnny pushed it. Glancing at Dolly's famously low-cut outfit, Carson joked, "I'd give a year of my life to peek under that blouse." The audience gasped, then burst into laughter. Even in an era known for looser boundaries, that was bold. You could almost feel the control room holding its breath. Dolly, ever the pro, handled it flawlessly. She laughed unfazed, turning what could have been awkward into another charming moment. But the comment struck a nerve beyond the studio. Viewer mail flooded in. Some applauded the honesty. Others called it out as crossing the line. For a host famous for knowing exactly where that line was, this was a rare misstep. Yet, in true Dolly fashion, she later said she took it as a compliment. One quick remark, one cultural shift, and another unforgettable live TV moment no script could have planned. Bette Midler did the impossible. She made Johnny Carson cry. By May 1992, the king of late night was nearing the end of his 30-year reign. The farewell episodes were emotional but still polished. Carson was staying cool, staying Johnny. Then Bette Midler changed the script. After playful banter and laughs, she suddenly announced she wanted to sing something special. The band began, "One for My Baby" and "One More for the Road," a smoky, aching goodbye song. And she didn't sing it to the audience. She sang it to him. The studio fell silent. And then the cameras caught it. Johnny Carson, the most controlled man in television, eyes filling with tears. No joke, no deflection. No commercial break. For once, the wall came down. When the song ended, Carson softly kissed her hand and said, "I can't top that." And honestly, he didn't have to. If that moment hit you too, drop a number 1 in the comments and don't forget to subscribe for more legendary late-night moments. The night Steve Martin turned magic into magnificent madness. By 1980, Steve Martin wasn't just a comedian, he was a walking curveball. When he told Johnny Carson he'd be performing a magic act, it sounded harmless enough. Carson politely stepped aside, expecting card tricks or rabbits. He got chaos. Martin introduced the great Flydini and immediately pretended to unzip his pants, pulling out random objects from his fly. Eggs, a salt shaker, a ringing telephone, and finally a tiny fake hand waving at the audience like it had career ambitions. The crowd howled. At first, Carson played the straight man. But as the routine spiraled deeper into absurdity, you could see it happen. Johnny lost it. Not polite host laughter, real laughter, shoulders shaking, eyes watering, completely blindsided. And that was the magic. Carson had seen thousands of comics. Very few surprised him. But Steve's deadpan commitment to pure nonsense turned the king of cool into just another guy in the audience, helpless with laughter. When the cameras stopped rolling, Johnny was still laughing. He later admitted, "That's what makes this job worth doing. No rabbits, no illusions, just beautifully ridiculous genius, and one host thrilled to be out of control." Now be honest, if you were sitting there, would you have cracked up like Johnny did? Drop your reaction in the comments below. The night Dean Martin may or may not have had one too many. By the 1970s, Dean Martin had perfected his signature persona, the smooth crooner who always seemed just a little tipsy, yet somehow razor sharp. When he walked onto The Tonight Show that night, he leaned all the way in. He slurred, he wobbled. He nearly missed the chair. The audience loved it. Was he actually drunk, or was it the greatest performance of his career? Carson knew the answer, and he played along beautifully. Instead of steering the interview back to safety, Johnny became the straight man, setting Dean up for punchlines that felt like they might derail at any second. Martin would start a story, lose his train of thought halfway through, stare into space, then shrug and say, "Ah, who cares?" The crowd exploded. That was the brilliance. You were never quite sure how much was an act and how much was real. And that uncertainty made it electric. Carson didn't try to control the chaos, he fed it. Two legends, one couch, and a masterclass in controlled unpredictability. If you love Dean's tipsy charm, drop an 8 in the comments. If you weren't buying it at all, well, go ahead and say so. We promise we're not slurring while reading it. The night a snake decided it wanted top billing. Joan Embry from the San Diego Zoo had brought plenty of exotic creatures onto The Tonight Show over the years. Johnny usually played along cautiously, but this time she arrived with a full-grown Burmese python. And this wasn't a cute little garden snake. This thing looked like it had its own zip code. As Joan calmly explained fascinating snake facts, the python had other plans. It began to move. Slowly, deliberately. Then, without warning, it slithered right off the desk and headed straight toward Johnny Carson. What happened next was not acting. Carson launched out of his chair with Olympic-level speed, tie flying, eyes wide, pure fight or flight on national television. The audience roared as the king of cool suddenly looked like every person who has ever said, "I'm fine with snakes, as long as they're far away." Once the python was safely wrangled, Johnny returned to his desk, adjusted his jacket, and delivered the line that saved the night. "Somebody better check my pants." Classic Carson. In that moment, he wasn't the unshakable host. He was just a guy who absolutely did not want a giant snake crawling up his leg, and America loved him for it. 10 Bob Hope was royalty vaudeville radio film television. A titan. When he walked onto The Tonight Show, it was supposed to be automatic magic. And in earlier years it was. But by the mid-1980s, something had shifted. Hope, now in his late 70s and early 80s, arrived armed with joke cards and jokes that felt just as old. Golf punchlines. Political zingers that had clearly survived several administrations, he read. He paused. He moved on. The audience didn't. You could feel it. The laughs were polite, thin, scattered. Meanwhile, Carson, a master of timing, sat inches away, smiling professionally while the silence stretched like an awkward family dinner. Cameras caught it, the tightening grin, the subtle glance toward Ed McMahon, the tiny tie adjustment, Johnny's silent signal that the ship was taking on water. He never embarrassed Hope, never cut him off. On air, he showed nothing but respect. But backstage, even Johnny understood the hard truth: comedy evolves, and timing is everything. It wasn't cruel. It was real. So, what do you think? Fascinating behind-the-scenes moment, right? If you'd like more untold Johnny Carson stories, let us know in the comments below. Arnold Schwarzenegger. By the mid-1980s, Arnold had gone from bodybuilding champion to full-blown Hollywood action star. He walked out to promote his latest movie, muscles polished, smile ready. Standard interview: right, wrong. Carson asked the first question, and Arnold answered with a long, serious response, entirely in German. No translation, no warning. The audience blinked. Carson blinked. Somewhere in the control room, producers were silently panicking. Johnny's expression clearly said, "Did we just switch networks?" But instead of stopping the madness, Carson leaned in. He nodded thoughtfully, as if every word made perfect sense. Then he began replying with completely made-up German-sounding phrases of his own. Total linguistic nonsense. Absolute confidence. The audience caught on and erupted. For several glorious minutes, the king of late night and the future Terminator carried on a fake bilingual conversation that neither fully understood, and that was the joke. Finally, Arnold broke character and laughed, admitting he just wanted to see how Johnny would handle it. And Johnny passed the test. He didn't shut it down. He didn't look annoyed. He turned potential awkwardness into comedy gold, proving once again that the best television moments are the ones no one plans. Now we've got to ask who impressed you more in that moment, Arnold, with the bold prank, or Johnny for rolling with it like a pro. Tell us who you admire more in the comments below. The night Jimmy Stewart silenced late night. Jimmy Stewart wasn't just a movie legend. He was a regular on The Tonight Show, bringing that soft, halting voice and small-town warmth that audiences adored. In 1981, he told Johnny he had written a poem about his dog Bo, who had recently passed away. Carson likely expected something sweet, maybe funny, a gentle tribute. What he got was something else entirely. Stewart began reading, slowly, carefully. The poem started simple memories of a loyal companion. Then it deepened. Love, loss, the quiet ache of reaching out at night and realizing your dog isn't there anymore. The studio went still. No laughter, no coughs, just Jimmy's trembling voice. And then the camera cut to Johnny Carson. The king of cool, the master of the comeback. Eyes glistening, lips tight, completely speechless. He didn't crack a joke, didn't rush to commercial. He let the moment breathe. For once, this wasn't about punchlines. It was about something real. And in allowing himself to feel it on camera, Carson gave the audience permission to feel it too. Decades later, people still remember that night not because it was funny, but because it was human. George Carlin outsmarted the censors on live television. 1983, George Carlin was already famous for pushing boundaries, especially with his legendary routine about the 7 words you could never say on TV. So every time he appeared on The Tonight Show, it was a high-wire act. How far could he go without the network pulling the plug? During one seemingly harmless monologue about everyday life, Carlin slipped in a razor-sharp line about language and stupidity. Subtle, clever, and just risky. Enough. It flew past NBC's standards department, but not past Johnny Carson. Carson caught it instantly. You could see it, that slight grin, that sideways glance at the camera. It was the look of a man thinking, "Oh, I see what you did there." And instead of shutting it down, Johnny let it breathe. That was the brilliance. Carlin got his jab in. Carson silently endorsed it. And the audience in on the joke felt like members of a secret club. NBC reportedly wasn't thrilled. Complaints came in. But Johnny defended the moment privately, arguing that if the joke was clever enough to slip through, it deserved to live. And tell us, do you love The Tonight Show and Johnny Carson as much as we do? If you're a true fan, let us know in the comments below. For 30 years, Carson's opening monologue ran like clockwork. Setup, punchline, applause, repeat. It was a late-night institution, untouchable. Until Don Rickles decided it wasn't. Just as Johnny hit his rhythm in the early 1980s, a familiar voice started heckling from backstage. Loud, unmistakable. Rickles. The audience froze, then started laughing as they realized this wasn't part of the script. Carson paused mid-joke. Now most hosts would power through. Not Johnny. He turned toward the curtain and barked, "Don, get out here," that was it. Format shattered. Rickles strutted on stage, pretending innocence, clearly thrilled he'd detonated the routine. Instead of being annoyed, Carson leaned into the chaos, scrapping his prepared material and dragging Rickles into the guest chair early. It was spontaneous, risky, hilarious. Carson understood something most hosts don't. Sometimes the best television isn't planned, it's unleashed. And that's the genius of Johnny Carson. Time and time again, his quick wit, calm nerve, and effortless timing rescued guests from awkward silences, frozen moments, and downright disasters. Whether it was chaos, controversy, or complete unpredictability, Johnny didn't just survive it, he turned it into television gold. That's not just hosting, that's mastery. 30 years, thousands of guests, and somehow Johnny Carson made the unpredictable look effortless. From total chaos to tear-jerking goodbyes, he proved that live television isn't about perfection, it's about timing. If you loved reliving these legendary moments, hit subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the next deep dive into late-night history. What if the king of late night had a secret list? For 30 years, Johnny Carson welcomed America into his living room, but behind that desk, he was studying people like a scientist. He noticed the micro-expressions, the posture, the energy, and one night in Malibu, after a few glasses of scotch, he revealed the 9 most beautiful women ever to grace his show. Not just stunning, unforgettable. Stay till the end to see who made the list, and don't forget to subscribe for more legendary stories. Bo Derek, the perfect 10 who silenced Studio One. Let's begin with the woman Carson once described as having the kind of beauty that makes time stop. An actress whose mere entrance into the studio caused the legendary host to momentarily forget his own name. Late 1979. 10 had just turned Bo Derek into America's newest fantasy overnight. But when she stepped onto The Tonight Show, something happened that even Johnny Carson didn't see coming. Not polite clapping. Not wild cheers. Silence. The kind where you can hear the air conditioning humming. As Bo walked out, the audience didn't react, they stared. Carson, the smoothest man in late night, actually paused before beginning. And Johnny Carson never paused. A talent coordinator later admitted, "We'd seen the movie, we thought we were ready, we weren't." In person, her beauty had dimension, almost gravity. Strangely, the camera softened her. In real life, she was more striking, not less. That almost never happens in Hollywood. Carson privately called her a living statue. But what truly threw him wasn't just her looks, it was the contrast. She appeared mythic, yet behaved completely natural. No diva energy, no rehearsed charm, just a calm young woman answering questions honestly. More than once, Johnny lost his train of thought mid-sentence, not because she said anything shocking, but because he simply forgot what he was about to ask. The effect spread through the studio. Cameramen lingered too long on her close-ups. NBC pages invented reasons to hover nearby. Even Doc Severinsen and the band went quiet. One operator joked, "I don't think the audience blinked." During a commercial break, Johnny leaned to Ed McMahon and whispered, "I could read the phone book right now and they'd think it's fascinating." Ed replied, "They haven't looked away from her long enough to notice you're still here." Backstage, she was the same, no entourage, no lighting demands, no approved topics. In an industry built on calculation, her authenticity felt radical. After her first appearance, Johnny told a producer, "She has no idea how beautiful she is, and that makes her twice as beautiful." When asked about being labeled a sex symbol, she said softly, "I still feel the same." Johnny smiled, "The rest of us don't." For Carson Bo, Derek was rare natural beauty matched with natural behavior. As we move from Derek's fresh-faced American beauty to our next subject, we encounter Hollywood royalty, whose legendary status preceded her, creating one of the most anticipated Tonight Show appearances of Carson's career. Elizabeth Taylor, the queen who didn't need a crown. When Elizabeth Taylor agreed to appear on The Tonight Show in 1992, it wasn't just another guest booking, it was a coronation. NBC executives who normally left Johnny Carson alone suddenly attended pre-production meetings. That alone told you everything. Taylor rarely did television. Her presence felt historic before she even stepped on stage. The night she arrived, the energy inside the studio changed. Crew members who had worked with presidents and superstars were straightening their jackets. A stage manager later said, "It felt like we weren't preparing for a guest, we were preparing for royalty." Carson himself, who almost never greeted guests beforehand, made an exception. Johnny later said she was Hollywood royalty and she knew it. He meant it as admiration. Elizabeth Taylor understood her place in film history. No false modesty, no casual charm. She carried herself with the quiet authority of someone who didn't need validation. When she entered, she didn't rush or wave wildly. She moved with deliberate grace, accepting the standing ovation with a small nod, both warm and imperial. A cameraman put it best, "Most stars come out hoping to be loved." She came out already knowing she was. Even Carson adjusted his rhythm. Normally the center of gravity in every interview, he subtly made space for her presence. The lighting was modified to capture her famous violet eyes. The control room had notes, tighter close-ups, longer holds. This wasn't just an interview, it was preservation of an era. What impressed Johnny most was her mystique. Afterward, he told a producer, "She keeps something for herself." In a culture moving toward oversharing, Taylor remained elegant, reserved, untouchable. Carson treated her not just as a beautiful woman, but as living Hollywood history. And from that regal, old-world grandeur, the stage would soon welcome a very different force, less crown, more conquest. Raquel Welch. Raquel Welch, the woman who took over the room. Would you welcome Raquel Welch? When Raquel Welch first stepped onto the Tonight Show stage in 1970, Johnny Carson, Mr. Unshakable, went momentarily speechless. For a host famous for flawless timing and total control, that brief pause said everything. A cameraman later recalled, "You could feel the air change." The director would whisper in his headset before her entrance, "Take your time on this one." America didn't mind lingering. Yes, she was stunning. But what truly set Raquel apart was confidence. She didn't pretend not to know the effects she had. She didn't hide behind self-deprecating humor. She moved with deliberate awareness. Every gesture, every glance, even the way she crossed her legs felt intentional yet effortless. Carson once said, off camera, "She doesn't enter a room, she takes it over." It was high praise. Raquel understood television instinctively. Before media training became a science, she already knew how to create a moment. She brought sharp wit, lively stories, and a subtle flirtation with Johnny that made their chemistry spark. Beauty might get you invited once, but personality got you invited back. Behind the scenes, her bookings caused what staff jokingly called the Raquel effect. Accountants found sudden reasons to visit the set. Engineers checked imaginary problems. Even executives hovered in the wings. During one commercial break, Johnny quipped, "If she joined the army, there'd be no draft dodgers." And yes, she rattled him. Once wearing a red dress that seemed engineered to defy gravity, Carson began a question, lost his place, glanced at his cue card and laughed. "I'm sorry, what was I saying?" The audience exploded. Carson rarely lost composure, but with Raquel it happened, and it was unforgettable. What he respected most was her self-awareness. She embraced her image without apology and built a real career around it. Their interviews had depth, tension, and mutual respect. And as her bold American glamour faded from the stage lights, a different kind of allure stepped forward, quieter, older, unmistakably European. Sophia Loren. Sophia Loren, the European elegance that made Carson lose his rhythm. After the bold, confident energy that had filled the stage before her, a different kind of presence stepped into Studio One in 1979. Not louder, not flashier, just deeper. When Sophia Loren appeared on The Tonight Show, the atmosphere didn't explode, it shifted. This wasn't the easy, approachable sparkle of American glamour. This was old-world European sophistication. She moved slowly, deliberately, as if time adjusted to her pace. A director who worked that evening later said Johnny treated every guest the same, but with Sophia, you could see the difference. Carson leaned in closer than usual. He laughed just a little too warmly. He straightened his tie more than once. To those who knew him best, the signs were unmistakable. The master of late-night composure was genuinely affected. Her beauty was undeniable, but what truly captivated the room was her presence. Sophia answered questions thoughtfully, her Italian accent turning even simple observations into something lyrical. When she locked eyes with Johnny mid-sentence, you could almost see him recalibrating in real time. A writer once joked, "You don't interview Sophia Loren, you survive her." What surprised viewers most was her depth. She spoke about growing up in war-torn Italy, about working with legendary directors, about the struggle to be taken seriously as both beautiful and intelligent. Beneath the sensual screen icon was a reflective, articulate artist. That contrast, smoldering glamour paired with substance made their conversation electric. Backstage, there was no frenzy. There was reverence. The usually lively crew became noticeably restrained. A production assistant recalled, "When Sophia was booked, everyone behaved. She wasn't treated like a celebrity, she was treated like cinema history." For Carson, that blend of admiration and intellectual respect created something rare. He was dazzled, certainly, but he also engaged her as an equal. The result wasn't just flirtation. It was chemistry with depth. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a #1 icon in the comments. It helps more than you think, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss the next legend. Farrah Fawcett, the sunshine girl with the $1 million smile. This must have been quite a challenge. Farrah Fawcett, the sunshine girl with the $1 million smile. In 1976, her red swimsuit poster sold over 12 million copies, becoming the best-selling pinup of all time. But even that iconic image didn't prepare anyone for the real thing. When Farrah first appeared on The Tonight Show that same year, right as Charlie's Angels exploded, the applause went on so long that Johnny Carson had to signal the control room to trim it for broadcast. That almost never happened. An NBC page recalled audience members standing just to catch a better glimpse. "It felt like the Beatles walked in," he said. Unlike the reverent hush that followed Elizabeth Taylor or Sophia Loren, Farrah generated pure joy. People were smiling before she even spoke. Johnny saw it instantly. Afterward, he told a producer, "She's like human champagne, the whole room gets bubbly." On the couch, she leaned forward, laughed easily, and answered with bright enthusiasm. Carson once joked, "If she were on every week, I'd forget how to talk." Her energy didn't overpower him, it disarmed him. Backstage, her booking days carried their own glow. Staff dressed a little sharper. Engineers found reasons to hover nearby. Even Johnny seemed extra polished when Farrah was scheduled. Her spontaneity made television magic. When Johnny teased her famous hair, she handed him a brush and said, "Go ahead." The crowd roared as Carson cautiously attempted a few strokes, terrified of ruining America's most famous waves. It was unscripted, playful, unforgettable. Farrah's beauty felt sunlit and effortless, tied to vitality rather than calculation. She didn't just light up the stage, she warmed it. As we leave behind Fawcett's California sunshine, we turn to a very different kind of beauty. The elegant sophistication of a groundbreaking actress who brought both stunning looks and historic significance to her Tonight Show appearances. Diahann Carroll, the grace that carried a revolution. When Diahann Carroll stepped onto The Tonight Show, she didn't just bring beauty, she brought history with heels on. By the time she sat across from Johnny Carson, she had already broken barriers as the first black woman to star in her own network television series in a non-stereotypical role with Julia. That wasn't just a credit, that was a cultural shift. A producer once said, "She walks in like she's floating." And it was true. While many guests showed a flicker of nerves under Carson's lights, Diahann looked completely at ease, calm, poised, almost regal. Sitting across from the most powerful man in late night seemed like just another Tuesday. What impressed Carson most wasn't only her elegance, it was her intellect. She didn't shrink herself to seem more approachable. She spoke with clarity about her craft, about racism in Hollywood, about the responsibility of being a pioneer. And she did it without ever sounding preachy. Johnny once told a producer, "She can make an important point without making you feel like you're in school." That, from Carson, was gold. There was a moment when he asked about a recent role, and Diahann smoothly shifted the conversation to the limited opportunities still facing black actresses. No tension, no awkwardness, just calm authority. Most guests wouldn't dare redirect Johnny. When she did it, it felt natural, earned. Backstage, the mood changed when she was booked. No rowdy joking, no chaos, just respect. A stage manager summed it up perfectly, beauty with power behind it. It wasn't just how she looked, it was what she represented. Carroll mastered something rare in show business. She was glamorous and grounded politically, meaningful yet personally warm. After one appearance, Carson said, "She never makes you choose between taking her seriously and enjoying her company." That balance was her superpower, and everyone in that studio knew it. Ursula Andress, the Bond girl who made Carson blink. When Ursula Andress appeared on The Tonight Show in the 1960s, she wasn't just another glamorous actress. She was already a cinematic landmark. After emerging from the sea, in that unforgettable white bikini in Dr. No, she had redefined screen sensuality and become the original Bond girl, the template for everyone who followed. An NBC executive later said she was the Bond girl and the room knew it. When Ursula stepped onto the stage, the audience didn't explode with cheers. They inhaled. There was a collective pause, almost reverent. She carried a striking mix of European sophistication and primal confidence. This wasn't girl-next-door charm. This was presence. A cameraman remembered Carson introducing the evening's guests, glancing at the monitor as her image appeared, and momentarily losing his place. For the most composed host on television, that kind of slip was rare. He recovered quickly, but the message was clear, even Carson wasn't immune. What made Ursula truly compelling, though, wasn't just the beauty, it was her honesty. Unlike many actresses who soften their impact with modest jokes, she accepted admiration comfortably. When Johnny asked about the famous beach scene, she didn't deflect. She acknowledged its significance plainly. Of course it changed her life. Why pretend otherwise? A writer once said, half joking, Johnny wasn't interviewing her, he was concentrating. Yet beneath the humor was real respect. Carson didn't treat her like a novelty. He asked about her craft, her directors, and the evolution of Bond films. She answered with calm European directness, unfiltered, intelligent, refreshingly real. Backstage, the mood shifted when she was booked. Not chaos focus. A production assistant recalled how even the usual jokes quieted down. It felt less like hosting a star, and more like welcoming someone who had already become film history. Ursula Andress didn't perform confidence. She owned it. And that self-contained certainty made her unforgettable. As we conclude our exploration of Carson's most beautiful guests, we turn to the woman who, though never appearing on his show, occupied a unique place in his gallery of iconic beauties. A star whose absence became its own kind of presence. Marilyn Monroe, the beautiful ghost of The Tonight Show. Of all the women Johnny Carson ever called unforgettable, the most intriguing one never actually sat in the chair. Marilyn Monroe died in 1962, just months before Carson became permanent host. And yet, for 3 decades, she hovered over The Tonight Show like a legend unfinished. A longtime producer once said, she haunted the stage without ever stepping on it. Johnny would interview a rising bombshell or a new Hollywood beauty, and sooner or later Monroe's name would surface. She wasn't just a sex symbol, she was the measuring stick. The benchmark, the ultimate what if. Carson once called her the most beautiful woman who never sat in that chair. But what fascinated him wasn't just the platinum image, it was the mystery beneath it. He believed that behind the breathy voice and camera-ready smile was an intelligent, wounded artist who never got fully understood. As the years passed, his view deepened. In the 60s, he referenced her as the ultimate blonde bombshell. By the 80s and 90s, he spoke about how Hollywood had created and consumed her. After one conversation with a film historian who mentioned her love of poetry and serious acting training, Johnny reportedly said, "We all missed who she really was." When actresses portrayed Monroe on his show, Carson didn't ask about copying the voice or recreating the glamour. He asked about her vulnerability, her pressure, her inner life. He was always searching for the person behind the persona. For Carson, Marilyn represented the perfect talk show guest beauty, yes, but also complexity. The kind of layered personality he loved to explore. And missing the chance to interview her remained one of his quiet regrets. She never appeared, but somehow she was always there. Who's missing from this list? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more. Jacqueline Bisset, the beauty that didn't chase the camera. If Marilyn Monroe was the beautiful ghost who never appeared, Jacqueline Bisset was the quiet storm who didn't need thunder. Bisset didn't explode onto the stage. She unfolded. Where some actresses stunned instantly, Jacqueline drew you in slowly, frame by frame. Her beauty wasn't loud. It was composed, intelligent, cinematic, the kind that made you look twice, and then keep looking. What set her apart wasn't dramatic entrances or calculated charm, it was restraint. Calm eyes, a subtle smile, a low measured voice that carried confidence without demanding attention. On Carson's stage, that kind of presence was powerful. She didn't perform glamour, she embodied it. By Johnny's unspoken standards, presence and camera love, Bisset scored high. The camera lingered on her, not because she asked it to, but because it wanted to. She had that rare ability to make stillness magnetic. No exaggerated flirtation, no rehearsed sparkle. Just authenticity. Unlike bombshells who commanded a gasp, Jacqueline created a pull. Viewers leaned in, Carson leaned in. Their conversations felt effortless, almost intimate. She spoke thoughtfully, never rushing, never overselling. The intelligence behind her beauty was obvious, and Johnny respected that. He valued guests who didn't rely on surface appeal, and Jacqueline never did. There was no backstage frenzy when she was booked. No chaos, just appreciation. She wasn't trying to dominate the room, and somehow that made her unforgettable. After the myth of Marilyn and the quiet allure of Bisset, it becomes clear Carson didn't just admire beauty. He admired control depth and the kind of presence that didn't need permission to shine. And there you have it, the women who didn't just walk onto Johnny Carson's stage, they owned it. Beauty, brains, presence, and a few moments that even the king of cool couldn't control. Thanks for watching all the way through. If you enjoyed this deep dive into late-night history, hit subscribe, ring that notification bell, and stay tuned, because the next legend might surprise you.